All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ministry Revealed. It is September 17th, 2018, and we are counting down the days to the announcement of the peace deal. We are looking for this day that we know is soon approaching, and today we are going to cover, we'll even look at this a little bit. Like I said, I was working on this a little bit. So we're going to just go through this, touch on it a little bit to show you that 14-year tribulation timeline, right? Today, we are going to go into the numbers. We're going to start with the obvious one that's right at the top, which is Psalms 90, verse 10. We're going to talk about the time, times, and half a time, the time and times and a half a time, the time, times, and dividing of time. We're going to cover the 1260 days, the 42 months. We're going to show you the 1290 days and the 1335 days. We're going to show you the 2300 days. All perfectly in line with what we've been talking about here on this channel. The books that Daniel said we're going to open are opening. And that's what we're going to cover here today. There's a lot of numbers. I expect to touch on all of them, but if not, I do expect to touch on all of them. All right, so let's get right into this. Let's look at all of these numbers and let's see where these things go in this timeline. Let's get an understanding of where we're at and see if these things fall in line with our, 2018. Always remembering, guys, that a year goes from spring to spring. Even when Jesus was here, a year was never in January. It was never in the middle of winter. Never. It wasn't until the last few hundred years, 300, 400, 500 years, something like that, that it got changed. Prior to that, it was always the spring. And I did a video quite a while back that was called, I don't know what the name of it was, but it had to do where April Fools comes from. April Fools was French. It was Poisson d'Avril, which means April Fools. And it was the French doing it to the outlying farmers and so forth that were still celebrating the new year in the spring at April 1st, on April 1st. And they were made fun of, and they would cut out fish, and they would walk by and they'd put it on their backs. And they would stick it on their backs. And they were made fun of, calling them, Poisson d'Avril or April Fools, because the French knew that the new year was changed to January, but these outlying villages and so forth didn't, so they were made fun of, and a lot of them wanted to keep April 1st. All right, so that's where it came from. And when Jesus was here, and everything from the Bible being written, spring was always the beginning of the year, right? It goes back to the Bible saying, and he shall want to change the times and the seasons, right? Change the dates, do all that stuff. And see, things like that, it's true. The Bible, there's a past, a present, and a future. All right? So when we look at some of these things, yes, it happened in the past, and there were seasons and times changed. Yes, there were wars like World War II that we would think that was absolutely what the Bible was talking about. There's the Antichrist. It was. These things have happened. And that's why I think a lot of people, when it comes to understanding that the seals haven't begun yet, I think that's one of the biggest hang-ups. Because the book of Revelation is written for the end of days. But a lot of people think that, we've already gone through all the seals. We've gone through the seals. We've gone through all these seals already, and we're waiting on the 6th. No. But people think that because of events in history. And because of events in history, we can easily point to so many of them. People also like to point to Chernobyl, which means wormwood. So a lot of people think, we're further into the Bible. No. There is going to be a literal end-time fulfillment of the book of Revelation, and it's about to begin. We are here right now in the 70 years, and we are waiting for that moment of escape. All right, and today we're going to cover this timing that we've been showing on this channel and how everything ties into this 14 years. All right, so let's get into this. Watch this. We start off right off the bat. The obvious, the thing that puts it all together and reveals the starting point of the 14 years. All right? The starting point understanding of the 14 years is Psalms 90 verse 10. This is something that we've covered a lot on this channel because it reveals the understanding of the times that we're in and how long the tribulation literally is going to be. All right? Not all of the tribulation for the Gentiles and for the church. That's only half of it. That's why so many people understand 7 years. But within those 7 years of tribulation, they try to also throw in the trumpets. Right? For all of those that are new to the channel, you're gonna realize for the first time why you have been so confused in what we've been taught. We've all been confused. And this channel will reveal the understanding to you of why it's 42 months, 1260, time and times and half a time. That they're not overlapping parts of the same thing. They're spoken differently because they are different periods of time. There's a reason why it says time, times, and a dividing of time. There's a reason why it says time and times and half a time. And there's a reason it says time, times, and half a time. All three of them are in relation to the start of trumpets, to the last half of trumpets, the last 3.5 years, and the last 2.5 years with 1 year left to go. That'll sound confusing to you now if you're new, but you're going to see it here today. And I've got other videos that talk about it. So you're going to want to take your time, if you haven't already, to go through some of those previous videos, especially the 3-part series called Operation 14 Years. All right, you're going to understand this confusion that you had for so many years in trying to understand the book of Revelation and trying to understand Daniel. All right, we might not cover it all today to just clarify it all, but we're going to cover as much as we can here within my usual time frame, all right? So let's start right here in Psalms 90 verse 10, a verse that nobody that I have ever heard of in the English-speaking language has had it revealed yet. And please understand, this is by no means this guy that you're listening to on the other side. This is not me, Alan Dubray, here up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. All right? It's the Spirit that has been revealing these things to me because it's the time. The time is approaching. The time is about to begin. And the entire time frame was actually 21 years, but we're not going to go there today. We're going to focus on those last 14 years and what the scriptures tell us about the time. All right? It is the Spirit. Now, where I throw my stuff into the mix is when we're trying to figure out what day, right? Don't get confused, guys, when people say nobody knows the day or hour. Go take a look if you want. Go study the Olivet Discourse of Luke. When you go into the Olivet Discourse of Luke, see the coming of the Son of Man, you have the parable of the fig tree, and then look. No of that day or hour knows no man. It says, take heed and be aware. Don't get caught up in the cares of this world. Don't get caught off guard when this is about to begin, because it's going to be a snare on the whole earth. Watch ye therefore and pray always that you may be accounted worthy to escape all of these things that were spoken about up above, and to stand before the Son of Man. There is nothing in Luke's discourse that says, of that day or hour knows no man. All right? Luke is speaking to the bride of Christ. Mark is speaking to the church that's left / Israel, right? The lost tribes. Matthew is to Judah. Let's see what let's see what Mark's discourse says. All right? This is Mark's discourse. You can go through all of it. Coming of the Son of Man, less than the fig tree. Boom, there it is. But of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels in heaven. See, the rapture date specifically, nobody's going to know the exact day or time. They'll know approximately, but it's not going to be easy because a whole bunch of people are going to be living out in the boonies. They're going to be living in the wilderness. They're going to be scrimping and scraping, right? It's not going to be an easy time to be able to figure this out. And Jesus is going to be seen, well, what he's coming on at the end of the 6th seal, you see that he's acknowledged as coming hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne, and from the Lamb, and from the wrath of the Lamb, which is going to be the trumpets coming. All right? So he comes, and he's acknowledged in some sense, but it's before the rapture. So there's going to be something in the skies above Jerusalem that is going to be seen, and that is going to be there above the mountains, which is going to be heavenly Zion. And somehow, whatever that's going to look like, it's going to be there. But the church is not going to know. That balance of the church is not going to know when that rapture is going to happen for them. All right? The bride for Luke is speaking about the escape. All right? Like we just read. Mark is the rapture. And look, of that day and hour knows no man. And what about Matthew? Matthew is when Jesus returns to the earth at the end of trumpets, at the end of the sixth trumpet and throughout the seventh, when he's cleaning up. And what do you see? Son of man, fig tree, and then look. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, not the angels in heaven. You see that? Matthew's discourse has it. Mark's discourse has it. Luke's discourse does not. And so I'm trying to figure out and understand if we can figure out this day. And I believe, for all of these ups and downs that we're going through, trying to figure out the day, because every time a feast day comes close, we're trying to see if it fits. We've gone over it so many times, and we know better. I know better. But I just get caught up in the excitement of it because I want that time to come. Not because I want the destruction, guys. We have to remember that we're not praying for this to come because we want everything to get destroyed and, to heck with everybody. No, that's not why. It's just this yearning, this aching in our guts, this aching in our hearts, because we know how close it is, and we know we are moments for those who are found accounted worthy, those who are praying, those who are watching, those who are seeking him, giving him thanks, who are repenting daily. Right? We know how close it is. We can feel it in our guts. And we just want to be with him. We just want to go home. Right? We just want to go. You can have a good job. You can have no job. You can have the nicest house, cars, vacations. If you're truly his, or you can have nothing. And if you're truly his, you have that aching. You know it. Right? It's just wanting to go be with him and just be done with this, right? That's what's going on. So that's why we get caught up in this stuff. Right? We get caught up in these things, but we know better. We've known for years we're waiting on the peace deal. We've known for years. Right? It's the peace deal we're waiting on. Okay. So when people saying of that day and hour knows no man, it's because they don't know who these books are speaking to. Who Matthew, Mark, and Luke are speaking to. Once you know, you understand that when people say nobody knows the day or hour, you can tell them, well, if you understand who the books are speaking to, you'd have a better understanding. But that's a long, drawn-out conversation, especially if you don't know a whole bunch. Refer them to videos like this if you need to, right? So back in Psalms, when we now go here into Psalm 90, and we get the understanding of what this means. All right? In the English-speaking language, like I said, I've never heard this understood before until it was revealed to me. And it's perfect. It is perfect. Nothing is forced that you're going to see today. I'm going to show you where these dates and where these time frames fit in. Not exact dates, but the time frames, all right? The days of your years are 70, right? 70. That's 70. We are right now in the 70th year of Israel, all right? That's why this year is so significant. That's why we are watching for this deal. I mean, Trump is the ultimate deal maker. He made the book for it. I mean, I've done 2 or 3 videos revealing things about Trump that it's not even hard to deny. It's almost impossible because it's all right there. All right. So, and if by reason of strength they be 80 years, okay, from 70 to 80 years. Now, why could people never have given you the true understanding of this scripture before? 90% of people will say the days of your years are 70. Boom. They say, see, 70 years, get ready. And they're right in that sense, but they generally, even more than 90%, don't go into the rest of it because it wasn't understood. Because if the tribulation is only 70 years, only 7 years long, why does it say from 70 to 80? Why is there 10 years here? Right? Why does it say, and if by reason of strength they're 80 years, yet is your strength during those 10 years from 70 to 80 labor and sorrow? What does that mean? It means tribulation, travail, right? Miserable, grievance, pain, trouble. We know what this is called, right? This is called the tribulation. Travailing in birth and pained to be delivered. Pain, torment, torture. See what I'm saying? That is what it is. But people say, well, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. How come it's 10 years? Because the total length is 14 years. All right? There is 7 and 7. Okay? 7 for seals, 7 for trumpets. Okay? Now, there's your 10 years. And then it says, yet is their strength labor and sorrow, right? So that's during the tribulation that Israel, that Judah is going to be a part of, okay? The people, the land, the church that's left. It's going to affect the whole earth, like Luke said. All right? For it is soon. So if this is 10 years from 70 to 80, it says for it is soon. It doesn't say and then. It says soon. This soon is 6 months approximately. It says for it is soon, and then what? Cut off, and we fly away. 10 years, 10 and a half with this, cut off at the 10 and a half years, and the fly away is again Revelation 12. All right? I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's just the beginning. It's in other videos. All right? What happens to the woman? This is the land of Israel, right? Judah here. She's given 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly into the wilderness. All right? Fly away into the wilderness. For how long? A time, comma, and times, comma, and half a time. That is a time, 1 year, comma, and times 2 years. So the and makes it a plus. All right? The comma separates it, meaning they're separately counted, and the and makes it an addition. So you have a time, 1 year, comma, and times, which means 2 years. So you have 1 year plus 2 years, and, right, comma, and, separation again, and adding half a time. This is the final 3.5 years. And we're going to touch on that. But you're going to see when we're in Daniel, and a lot of people, including myself for the longest time, till the revelation of the comma and was revealed to me, that I thought Daniel 12, that time, and half a time was the same thing. All pastors and teachers do as well. They teach that even at seminary. I'm going to show you things here in this video that were never understood before. For those who are new especially. Others that have been following a while will know, but now we're going to compound all of these together with these time frames that Daniel has and that the Bible has, all right? So this is the 3.5, and it's the final 3.5. So there's the fly away. So if this fly away is 3.5 years, well then how about this 3.5? Cut off and we fly away. This isn't us flying away, all right? This isn't the bride. There are 3 events. There is the bride. There is the bride of Christ that escapes. That's going to vanish. There is the rapture group. Sorry, give me a second. There's the rapture group that is going to be raptured, obviously, out of here. And then there's Judah, right? Israel, the land of Israel, those in Judah who are going to flee or fly away. Sorry, they're going to fly away into the wilderness. And this portion is 3.5 years. That's why when we look at this chart, you can see it right here. All right? Now this should actually, like, see, there's little adjustments I got to make. Like I said, I wasn't done yet. But this should be more lined up with right here at the 5th one. All right? But I'll deal with this later. So right here, when Satan is cast out of heaven, and Satan chases the woman, the land of Israel, right, Judah, into the wilderness. She's going to fly away into the wilderness for the final 3.5 years. Yet in Daniel's, we see that it's time without an and, it's time times and half a time. It's only 2.5 years. All right? And we're going to show you why it's 2.5 years, because the Lord's going to return at the end of the sixth seal. At the end of the sixth trumpet. All right? Just like he does over here at the end of from the 6th to the 7th, just like over here in the trumpets from the 6th to the 7th. Because remember, the seventh year is always the rest year. So it's 6 years of tribulation and then the rest year. 6 years of tribulation of trumpets and then the rest year. And those are the final 7 years, 7 and 7 for the final 49, and the Jubilee is the year 2033. All right? And remember, spring to spring, so 32, 33. All right? So let's go further into this now. So we've got this. We have 10 years, 6 months, and then we fly away. So you have 10 years, 6 months, and 3.5 years for exactly 14 years. Even this cut off here, right? This cut off is Daniel. It gives us the same timeline here in Daniel 9. A lot of people like this one in Daniel 9. They're trying to figure it out for the longest time, and it's been so confusing. Well, here it is for you. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 years, comma, and 3.5 years is what that means in end time. 3.5. This score isn't like the other score. This score, even though it says 3 scores and 60, like 320s, it's not. This one, there was a translation mistake. Just we've showed it before in the book of Genesis. It also means to score like a mark, like 1, 2, 3, like scoring. You know what I mean? Like I want to put a line through it, a line through it, a line through it. That scoring is in 1, 2, 3. All right, that's the understanding there. And so you see that after the 3.5 years, Messiah, Jesus Christ, shall be cut off, but not for himself. All right, this is that cut off. When? 7 years and 3.5 years. 10.5 years. And then what happens? People of the prince, they're going to see a flood, just like you read in Revelation 12. He's going to go after them with a flood. And unto the end of the war, which war? The war that he makes with the 2 witnesses. When we read in Revelation 11, it says that he makes war with the 2 witnesses. He doesn't kill them. See, that's another thing that we're mistaught. We're taught that they're going to die after the 1260 days. No, their ministry ends after 1260 days, which we're going to show here. But it doesn't say that they're killed after 1260 days. It shows that their ministry ends after 1260 days. And if you read in Revelation 11 talking about it, it says, and their body lay in the streets after they were killed, right? There was war made with them that's going to last 2.5 years first. And when they're killed, it's at the end of the 6th trumpet. And at the end of the 6th trumpet, they're killed, they're raised up, and then boom, it says it's over. The things of this earth and the things of heaven are made to be the Lord's, and so on and so forth. All right? At the end of the 6th. That's what's going on. Okay? So, and that's the end of the war. And this is why here, a lot of people, they teach that this, or just about everyone has taught that this is the Antichrist. No. This is when Jesus returns at the end of the 6th trumpet. In the 7th trumpet, he's come back to confirm the covenant that he made at the beginning of trumpets. But after 3.5 years building the city and the streets with the people that were there, that came there to want to be part of it, that are his, he got cut off. He left however that's going to take place. Whether he leaves, whether it just becomes invisible, whatever that is that's going to be above Israel, however that's going to look, I don't know. But he's going to be cut off because Satan has been cast out of heaven. He's lost his battle in heaven, right? Chases Judah with a flood, where they where they fly away, remember? They fly away for 3.5 years. But this is only 2.5 years. Why? Because they're going to remain, Judah is going to remain in the wilderness for the full 3.5 years until everything is done. All right? But unto the end of the war is 2.5 years. Jesus returns to confirm his covenant, and in the midst of it, 6 months into it, he's going to cause the sacrifice and the overspreading of abomination that was taking place in there. He is going, see, he shall make it desolate. Why would this be Satan or the Antichrist? They're the ones that made it an abomination. Jesus, when he returns in that final year, he is the one that's going to make it desolate. He's the one that's going to destroy it. See that? He's the one that's going to destroy it because of what they were doing in there. Okay? And then you're going to see he's going to pour out the bowls after. Okay? Upon the desolate. So let's look here real quick. I say real quick. Let's look here at some numbers. All right, so we've got the 14 years that we saw from Psalms 90. Now let's see if we can make this go in order. You know what? Let's start with this one. Let me show you seals. The seals, guys, are here. They're in other parts too, but this is the characters, the people involved, if you will. The horns, the goat, and the ram, and so forth. And there's a lot in here, but the purpose isn't to go through all of this. It's to show you the numbers, right? We want to cover these numbers. What is this 2,300 days? All right? And how do we know it's seals? Well, you have to go back in and read and understand here that this is the portion of seals. You know, here's a simple piece for you to understand right here. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, I always think that one's funny, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? All right? This is seals. How long is this transgression and everything that's taken place and the daily sacrifice that's taking place? How long is this going to go on? Right? How long is this going to continue? To be trodden under foot. All right? You can see the sanctuary, the meaning of the sanctuary. Look, it's not a building. See that? It'll often tell you like a church or things like that. This sanctuary isn't a building. It's us, but the church that's remained. All right? It is the church that, the people of the church, the 90% who remained that weren't found accounted worthy to escape all these things. They are this sanctuary. See, saint, holiness, sacred place, us, the body is what it is. Right? Look, it has to be clean, to purify. It has to be cleansed. You see that? And he said unto me, 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary, the body of Christians that were there during the seals, to be cleansed, made right, clean. I've got a great video on cleansing, cleansed hands, having washed the hands. All right, let's see if we can prove this now with the timing in Revelation. Trodden underfoot, the sanctuary being the body and to be cleaned. We can show it in Psalms in verse 24, but let's go over here in Revelation 11. We've done a teaching on this in the past, all right? Rise of the temple. All right. But the court, which is without the temple, leave out. See, the court, the body. See, the mansion. We've done a video on this too. This court, this mansion, has to do with our bodies. All right, watch this. Let's go to, I think maybe just go on here. Air blow. The body, this is the body. This is like the sanctuary. All right? Now watch, which is without, which is, see that? External, outwardly. This is the flesh. All right, look, strange. Why would the word strange be for building? Remember the scriptures talking about strange flesh? That's what it's talking about. Flesh. This is the outer court that is being crushed and trampled on. All right? Look, here it is. For it is given unto the Gentiles and the holy city, they shall tread under foot 42 months. Where is that 42 months of treading underfoot? It's when the Antichrist is given power to continue 42 months. Watch this. Do I think the 42 months is right away at the pale horse rider? No, I think he's going to be given power to continue 42 months a little bit before that. I could be off, but, at around the time of the pale horse rider, he's going to be given power to continue 42 months. See, here's 42 months, and then here's 1,260 days. When we go into Revelation 12, we see again 1,260 days. When we go into Revelation 13, we see that the Antichrist is given power to continue 42 months. So you have 42 months, 42 months, 1,260 days, 1,260 days, but everybody tells you that they're the same thing. It makes no sense because it's not true. But they had to do that because they'd never understood 14 years. Let me show you this right off the bat. Something to just give your brain a shake for those that are still thinking in a 7-year time frame that this is off and just not making sense. Okay? If it was really 7 years and he has 42 months here in power, and in Revelation 12, people are saying, or have always taught, that this 1,260 is the same time frame as 42 months, and then this down here, this time, end times, and half a time, is the second 3.5 years, all right? That would equal 7 years. However, read what Revelation 13 says. Look at this. I saw a beast rise, 13:2. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him power, and his seat and great authority. See, he's got power and great authority. We don't know how long he's given his power and authority to start with. There is no time frame. But he's the one that begins the war. And then look, he's got the head wound. Then everybody starts worshiping him. Who can make war with him? And then look what it says. Verse 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And look, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Hello? Just pause on that for those who haven't heard this before. If there's 42 months and 1,260 are the same, so we call that the same 3.5 years, which is wrong, but that's the way we're all taught it. That's the first 3.5 years. And the second 3.5 years is time, end times, and half a time. Well, what about this word continue? What about when he first gets his power up here and war happens and his head wound happens and everybody starts bowing down and worshiping him and saying who can make war with him? And then he gets power to continue 42 months. Ask your pastors, how do they explain that? That is now put it beyond 7 years. X amount of time beyond 7 years. Yet how is that possible? Because he's not going to be revealed and be given power until you're gone, I thought. See that? This is the revelation. This word right here is a revelation for everybody outside. I mean, Psalms 90 and 10 will take some people time sometimes to understand that. But you just want simple proof of it being beyond 7 years. Take the word continue and go back to the beginning of the chapter all of that is before the 7 years. How do you explain that? This channel can do that. It's 14 years. All right? So when we look at this chart here real quick, at the timeline, from the time of the White Horse Rider, which I believe is going to be the signing of the peace deal, very shortly after that, I've put the escape of the bride. I sometimes have it on this side. I sometimes have it on this side. The link that's going to be on this, probably with this video, because I'm not going to have this done yet, is the one that has the bride escaping on this side. But I believe she's probably a little bit after, because whether we want to call this the Elijah spirit or whatever we want to call this White Horse Rider, it is going to be the signing of the peace deal. And from that signing, the countdown begins. Is the bride escaping instantly, or does the bride escape within 7 days? Is there one person or a handful, or a number of people that are going to remain for, say, the 40 days? Right? I believe the entire bride will remain for X amount of time, as far as the 40 days, but not beyond. All right, because we read in Psalms 18, which is in relation to 2018, just as Psalms 118 is in relation to 2018. We see that there's going to be events before we're delivered and set in a large place. All right, there's nostrils blowing and so forth. The Lord in his anger, not war yet. It's going to be earth-shaking, shattering events happening first. All right. So I put the bride, they could be even a little bit tighter in here, not so far apart, but just for space purposes, all right? So you have the Antichrist coming into power as the Red Horse Rider being revealed, like we saw at the beginning of chapter 13. At the beginning of chapter 13, and he's going to have power for X amount of time until he's going to be given power to continue 42 months. When he has power to continue 42 months, that's when hell is going to break loose for the Christians. There's going to be, of course, persecution and everything throughout here as well. But at the point that he is given power to continue 42 months, that is your nasty time for Christians. That is your time to flee. And I would say not only Christians, it'll probably be some persecution against the real Jews as well. All right? The true Jews. So, how much time is he in power before he gets power to continue 42 months? Well, the Bible doesn't tell us. It doesn't tell us that he had power 42 months before, or 1260 or whatever. And there's a reason, guys, why 1260 comes after the 42 months. The 1260 begins at trumpets. And we'll touch on that as well. There's a reason why it's a number like 1260, which is 3.5 years. All right? We're going to look at a number for 2300 days, but the reason for the 1260 is because the earth, with all the devastation that's going to take place in that sixth seal, and when the two witnesses show up, something is going to happen that at the beginning of trumpets, the earth is going to be reset or adjusted, that the days are no longer going to be 365 days. You see, a lot of people are getting confused with this right now, and that struck me the other day. All of these things with trying to reckon the calendars is very, very difficult. We've got to take these numbers in the Bible to gain our understanding, and to understand that during this time of the Gentiles and the seals, during this time is going to still be running on 365 calendar. When it comes to trumpets, it'll have reversed something with all of these devastations, these massive earth-shaking events when we read the sixth seal. America being ripped literally in two. And maybe even something having to do with the two witnesses. If they're, whatever these two witnesses are and whatever this type of power is that they have, there's going to be something that's going to relate with them to the earth as well, which is going to cause the earth to slow down and to be reset in its course. Hence, when you see, as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. As it was in the days of Noah, right, with the giants and everything, so shall it be in the end when Satan is cast down. That whole understanding that people are trying to get, as it was in the days of Noah, it all goes back to everybody, every single time they go to Matthew. Your pastor wants to teach an end times understanding? Where does your pastor go? Matthew 24. 98% of the time, every pastor goes to the Olivet Discourse of Matthew to teach the end times and what's coming. And then they go into, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. Yeah, not for the church. At the end, Matthew's time. See, that's why it's in Matthew's discourse. You don't find it at all in Luke's, of course, and you don't find it in Mark's. There's a reason. Because they're not going to be here. The bride surely is not going to be here. They will have been taken out, vanished much sooner. But the church as well will have been gone as well. They'll have been taken after the seals were done. All right? The time when Satan shows up is the time of as it was in the days of Noah, which is why we see that spoken of in Matthew's discourse. This is Matthew's discourse. This is Mark's discourse. But don't forget, those in Matthew are also taking part in Luke's, because these events are happening over the whole earth. All right? That's what's going on. And there's whole teachings on those discourses that I've done in the past. All right? So that's why from the time of the first seal opening to the time that Satan gets here, it's 7 years and 3.5 years. There's your 10.5 years when Yeshua cuts himself off. Messiah the Prince, because Satan has now come down. All right? And then you've got your final 3.5 years where Judah is going to remain hidden. Okay? So, man, there's even stuff with midnight. I can show you vanishing in Luke chapter 24. His is the only one that has vanishing, and that is carried up with Jesus there. Because they're the only group vanishing. They're the group that's going to get carried up. All right? Let's go. So we were talking about... Oh, here, let me finish up in there. So that's what we were talking about here with the 42 months. Right off the bat, that tells you it's more than 7 years when we read Revelation 13. Okay? So it's giving you the understanding. And then you have the 1260 days of the two witnesses. And there's your treading underfoot for 42 months. They're destroying the outer court that is without, right? That's the body. They're ripping it apart. They're beheading everybody and treading them underfoot for 42 months. That begins, like I said, at about the pale horse rider time, when the Antichrist is given power to continue 42 months, but he's got some sort of power beforehand for X amount of time. But the reason we're not given an exact time, like we are with the 42 months, with the 1260, with the times and half a time, is because he doesn't show up immediately after the escape of the bride. Even if the escape of the bride is, for example, 40 days, after the pale horse rider, after the white horse rider, after the signing of the peace deal, if the bride escapes 40 days, they don't have a number saying, 42 and, 40 and 3/4 of a month. You know what I mean? They don't have that. So there's no exact time given for when the Antichrist is going to be revealed on the scene. But we know from when he's given power to continue, and then we know the next 3.5, and we know the next 3.5. You see that? So going in reverse, you have time and times and half a time. You have 1260 days from the time the two witnesses arrive in Revelation 14, when the 144,000 are on Mount Zion with the Lamb, because Jesus is returning at the beginning of trumpets on Mount Zion. He's going to be on Mount Zion, not Mount of Olives. Mount of Olives comes at the end. He's going to first come on as the Lamb on Mount Zion with the 144,000, like we read in Revelation 14. There's your two witnesses for 1,260 days. They're going to be here for 1,260 days from here to here. They're going to they're going to be witnessing for those 1,260 days. When Satan arrives, Jesus leaves. The two witnesses are then going to be at war with Satan and his guys for 2.5 years. See that? Now let's look at where this 2.5 years is just real quick, and then I'll come back to this. I promise you I will. Let's look at where this 2.5 years is. This is the Daniel 12. When he says, how long shall it be? Where is it? Right? Even to the time of the end. And the angel tells him that it shall be for a time, times, and half a time. Why is there no and on this one? Because it's 1 year, comma, 2 years, comma, and then add with the comma and a half. 1 year, 2 years, and a half. I did a sketch on this before, putting like a 1, comma, 2, comma, 3, comma, 4, comma. Would you add them all together if there was a comma after them? No. You'd say 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if I said and a half, you would say, okay, 4.5. But if I put 1 and 2 and 3, and it'd be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. You see what I mean? It would be adding them and adding them and adding them. And that's why there is no and here. Because this one, it is Daniel asking about the time of Judah. How long before this devastation and what these guys are doing in the temple with Satan and all the fallen angels and giants and all of the craziness that's going to be taking place. Eating of flesh of men. Those who don't flee, those who can't escape, they're going to be left eating flesh. Go read Zechariah. It's unbelievable. So this is that 2.5 years that relates to what Daniel is speaking about here in Daniel 9 when he says, and then he, Yeshua, Messiah, will return, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 year. Right? How does 1 week, we got 7 weeks up here, which means years, and when we get down here, this week means 7 years. What? That's what it is. Till the end of the war. Desolations are determined. Boom, 2.5 years. Final year makes the 3.5. At the end of this 2.5 years, the two witnesses are killed. That's the end of the 6th seal. Then Yeshua returns. Messiah returns. He was up here already. They were building the wall and the city and the temple and everything. Then he got cut off because Satan and his guys showed up. Then he returns after 2.5 years. And he's going to shred that place apart and rip them all apart and destroy those guys for what they did for the overspreading of abominations. He's going to make it desolate. But during this time, Judah is still in the wilderness. Which is why we have time and times and half a time. Right? That's the 3.5 years that we see in Revelation 12. Okay? Which is why we have the two witnesses killed at the end of the 6th, 2.5 years. But when Judah fled into the flew away into the wilderness, they were gone and remain away till the end of it for 3.5 years before they'd return. And actually, you're going to see here as we go into these numbers more, it's longer than the 3.5 years. You'll see. Watch these numbers, guys. It's beautiful. Let's go back here now. So we've got the 1260 covered. We can see, we know where the 42 months are. We know where the 1260. We know where the time and times and half a time are. We know where the time times and a half are. Let's see where, oh, you know what? Let's see where this one is. How about this? How do you explain this one? Where are you? I'm sure it's in 11. Where are you? It's the one that says time and time. Sorry, give me 1 second. I know, it's probably just a little bit further down. Give me a second. All right, so it wasn't in Daniel 11. In Daniel 7, we see this other one. Remember we talked about this at the beginning. There's a time and times and dividing of time. But look, see guys, these little things that are just so unbelievable. Why is there no comma before the and like we see in these other ones? Right? This one we see for a time, there, right here, times and a half, comma and a half. But we don't see it here. All these things mean something, guys. Every single time we see this, it's because it means something. It gives us understanding. Okay? And he shall speak great words against the Most High and wear out the saints of the Most High. This is speaking about the Antichrist. See, you can go into Daniel 8, and it's talking about the characters leading up to that final guy that's the Antichrist. When you go into here, you're seeing events of it. Okay? Excuse me, in Daniel 7. And he shall wear out the saints of the Most High and think to change times and laws. Excuse me. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and a dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, and he'll be destroyed, and so forth. What dividing of time is this? It's a completely different one. It's all part of the end time, but it's the dividing right here. The dividing, this actually seals. See, this should have been stretched to the point of trumpets right here. It's the seals to the end of the seals and the beginning of the trumpets. It is the dividing of the time. The time of the Gentiles will be over at the end of the 7th seal. No more time of the Gentiles. If Gentiles that are left, because when you understand, guys, that's a lot of people don't understand the harvests. In every harvest, there is a first fruit. Even if it's not fruits, it's wheat, it's corn, whatever. There is always the first portion, which is called first fruits unto the Lord. Then there's the main harvest. So let's take this piece of paper. The first fruits is 10%. The main harvest is all of this stuff around. Not quite 90%, but the majority of it. And the corners and the stuff that falls on the ground here and there from the main harvest is called the corners and gleaning. The bride, the middle portion, the 10%, goes at the beginning. The main harvest, which is the great harvest, is what goes at the rapture. However, there's going to be leftovers, if you will, of Gentiles. But when the time of the Gentiles is over and the time of Judah has begun, the Gentiles that are still lingering around and surviving, that finally realize and want to come to Christ during this time, are going to have to do it through the Jews. That's how they're going to make their way to Christ. Listening and obeying and following what the Jews do, and they're going to have to follow some of the traditions and laws. There is still going to be mercy in here. There still is going to be not just grace. You're going to have to believe in Jesus Christ during trumpets as well, or you're not going to get saved. But there's going to be other things involved. No fornication. No, all of the commandments are going to have to be obeyed. The 10 Commandments, of course. But they're also going to have to obey Feast of Tabernacles. All right? They're going to have to do certain things because the time of the Gentiles is over. That is the dividing of time between seals and trumpets. Okay? Now let's go to look at some of these numbers. Watch this. Let's go to the end of Daniel 12. Okay? And for the time, watch this. Daniel's wondering, he's like, oh man, how long before all these things shall be finished, right? So it shall be for a time, times into dividing times, and there's that 1 year left, all right? And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white, given white robes, get that, during the seals, and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice, remember we talked about this? The continuance, the continued perpetual daily killing of Christians. That's why you see sacrifice italicized. From the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away. Look at this. Look at this. Beheaded. So I think it's pretty obvious which group this is talking about. From the time that those getting beheaded are plucked away, raptured. From that time of the rapture and the abomination that makes desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Now, what is this talking about? This is talking about from the time of the rapture. So from this comma right here, from the time that the rapture happens until this white space right here, this space of time from the end that the rapture is taken away and the end of the Gentiles, the time of the Gentiles is over, until the time that Satan is cast out and they've put in the image and the abomination of desolation has been set up, it will be 1,290 days. Think of those two witnesses. That's why we're given a number like this. Why 30 days longer? Because it's the time it's going to take from when Satan is cast out. From the time Satan is cast out and things get set up and they've taken over the temple and taken over Jerusalem, it'll be 30 days from that point when Jesus has left. It'll be 30 days before they're set up there. That 30 days is probably even the time that Judah is going to fly away. That is their time to leave. When Satan is cast out, it's going to be a 30-day period in there where they're going to be running for their lives. That's the 1,206. That's the 1,290. This is your beginning of trumpets, 1,260 to right here. And then by the time the abomination is set up, it's not like, boom, he's going to be cast out of heaven and all those guys show up, the fallen angels, and Satan shows up, and boom, he's in there and they own it and they've set everything up. No, it's going to take 30 days to set up. That's what this is talking about. Look at this word, take away. To pluck away. We know that this means rapture stuff, right? Watch this. I love this one in Genesis. When we're talking about Noah. When we're talking about Noah and the flood, right? Watch this. 8. Genesis 8. Listen to this with the dove and the raven. All right? So at the end of 40 days, Noah opened the window. See? Window, singular. Opened the window of the ark. All right? Think of heaven. Opened the single window of the ark which he had made, and sent forth a raven which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. I have never been able to figure out this raven portion yet, But that's not the focus here, okay? But he also at the same time sent forth a dove, all right, from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned unto him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Look at how he brings her in. Then he put forth his hand and took her and pulled her into the ark. Who's this? You think it's the rapture? You'd be wrong. This is the escape of the bride. This is the first event. All right? No plucked away here. Nothing to do with plucked away here or here. You see that? This is the first time. This is the escape of the bride, okay? That's the first one. See, the whole story of the dove with Noah in the ark is the revelation of the tribulation timeline, guys. Look how straightforward it is here. All right? Sent out the dove, and then she came back, and boom, he pulled her in to bring, carry away, take forth, to take. This is, see, to fetch, reserve, seize. This is the escape of the bride, not the rapture. Yes, there's certain terminology that is similar, but it is not. It is the escape of the bride. And then listen to what comes next. And he stayed yet 7 other days. Escape of the bride, 7 years. And then what happens? And again, he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came into him in the evening. In the evening, I should have highlighted this for another reason. I don't know if you saw that when we were talking about Mark. In the evening. Well, let me show you this real quick. Real quick. Mark's discourse. Watch this. Watch this. And if his master should return at even or at midnight, right? When the Son of Man has come from taking a far journey, because he was gone with the bride. When he comes at evening, see that? Here's the first one. Dove goes out. It's the representation of the escape of the bride. He waits 7 years, 7 days, and again sends forth the dove. And the dove came back into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. All right? And no one knew that the waters had abated from off the earth. All right? Escape of the bride, wait 7 years, plucked, rapture group. And no one knew that the waters had abated. And then what did he do? He stayed yet 7 more days, years. Sent forth the dove, and the dove never returned anymore. Why? Because Judah is remaining on the earth for their 1,000 years that they've been waiting for forever. Their peace on earth, their heaven on earth. That's why, guys, you'll see a prayer, you'll see the Lord's Prayer in in Matthew, and you see the Lord's Prayer in Luke, and they're slightly different. We should all be praying the Lord's Prayer from Luke. Judah, the Jews should be praying the Lord's Prayer from Matthew. Watch this. I think it's, look at this. And he said unto them, when you pray, say, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Look. As in heaven, so on the earth, so in the earth. You have a difference with sins and indebted differences than the way it is spoken of in Matthew. But again, why have we been taught all of our lives and still taught by the church that everything is from Matthew, when there's 3 books talking about the same thing, and then sometimes John as well? John's relation is really to the 144,000. All right? There's a reason everything is spoken of slightly different when they're the same things being spoken about slightly different is because who they're talking to and the point it's trying to get across. This is to the church, to Israel, the people of Israel, the lost tribes, not the land of Israel. Right? As in heaven, so on earth. What does Matthew say? As in earth, so in heaven. As on earth, so in heaven. Why does Matthew say that? Because Judah is waiting for their 1,000 years. Right? They're not going to go to heaven. Heaven is coming down to the earth for them. That's why in Matthew, a great teaching, guys, you can go to the last chapter of Matthew, Mark, and Luke and read it. It's going to be blown away. Understanding that Matthew is to Judah, that Mark is to the church / Israel, that Luke is to the bride. All right? And you see at the end that there's no escaping. Jesus doesn't go anywhere. In Mark and in Luke, he is taken away in different ways. In Matthew, he's not taken away anywhere. He says, I am with you always, even until the end of the world. Why? Because he's returning to rule and reign with them on earth for 1,000 years when the end of the world will come. The tribulation is the end of the world. It's sure going to feel like it for those who are here, but it's not the end of the world. There's going to be 1,000 years after the 14 years. After the 14 years, it'll be the year 31 into 32. Remember, spring to spring. But that's 49 years. That's the end of the 7 sevens. The 32 to 33 is the 50th year of Jubilee. Then you have the 1,000-year reign. Do you get it? Everything is perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect in what the Lord's been telling us when he would return. And you see, so that is the understanding here from the time that the rapture, the plucked away group, is gone until the time that the abomination is set up. Not when Satan arrives, but once it is set up. It is 1,290 days. And then it says, blessed is he that waits and comes to 1,335 days. Right? People will look at this and say, well, this is just 30 days more than the 1260. This is just 45 days more than this. No, that's not it. This refers to when they can come back. Right? They're going to flee and run away, and it's going to be blessed are those who are able to wait and come back to return from the wilderness. Right? You got to remember, they can return from the wilderness after the 3.5 years, but they got their travel back. They got to wait for the blasting of the trumpets to be gathered back. That's what this one is talking about. It has nothing to do with this, except that it's after that. And when does that put them to? The point when it's all done. And they could return. When the bowls are even finished. It includes the time of the bowls. Then they could return. But go thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. All in perfect alignment with where we are right now today. I have shown countless times that the Bible shows us that 2018 is going to begin the 14 years. We keep trying to figure out when, and we get caught up in trying to understand the when. The when is the peace deal. There is going to be 40 days after that. Do some get to go, or some going to remain, or some, I don't know. But we know there's a 40 days. There is always a 40 days. From Genesis to Revelation, there is always a 40 day of something to allow people to come in. But once that 10% of the church is reached, when that 10% of the church is reached, It's over. The tribulation, the 14 years will begin. The bride will be gone. The bride will escape the moment that that last person comes in as part of the bride, repentant. And the 14 years, the tribulation of the seals will begin. Right? And that's why I was saying to start off with, why so many people believe the seals have already begun. Because of these things in history that relate to it. But there's so many obvious things when we understand the beheadings and all those types of things that take place. They were taking place before Christ even got here. Wars were taking place before Christ got here. You see what I'm saying? They were nothing new. So that tells us, in one sense, that the tribulation of the book of Revelation is for a specific time in history. The end. The end as life as we know it. It was not things that were happening the whole way through, things that had happened even before John got the revelation. There were people that were beheaded. John the Baptist was beheaded for Christ well before John was given the revelation. So there were people dying and being killed and beheaded for Christ, yet he's given the revelation many years later. So how is that possible that it's not relating to a specific time in the future? It doesn't make any sense. Zechariah gives us that truth too. When you see the seals, look at this red horse rider one. He's given the ability to take peace from the earth. I'm sorry, but people they must have a mental block to think that the earth isn't in relative peace right now. This peace taken from the earth is not just like we have right now, and there's many places around the world that don't have peace and that they're killing one another. This is a specific peace. The bride of Christ having been removed with the Holy Spirit. Gone. People killing one another. Neighbor against neighbor. I can say right now I'm living pretty comfortably. I'm sure most of you are as well. Most of you. Right? We're not being attacked by neighbors. People trying to break into our house for food. This is what's coming. This has not begun to the full extent of what the tribulation is speaking about. And Zechariah confirms this for us. Zechariah is the final 14 years. This is the 14 years of tribulation. Hosea is the same thing. The two books in the Old Testament that have 14 chapters. Hosea is written from the other viewpoint of the Gentiles, like Israel. Look. Second verse, the Lord says, Hosea, right? Like Jesus, go get your wife of whoredom. That's the Gentiles. Boom, right off the bat. Zechariah gives us the time frame to let us know when these things are going to begin. Vision of a horseman. Which one? The red horse rider. Beginning of this year that took place. We didn't see it, but it was revealed in the stars. Right? The blood red moon, January 31st on the Festival of Trees. Right? There's your 70 years of Israel. That came next, May 14th this year. All these things have been coming in order. And the next thing to come is the peace and safety. Security and quiet rest. This is peace and safety. And then the affliction. See this? The affliction is going to then begin. When we go into 2024 for Zechariah 7, we see that, 2025, when the Lord has returned, he's now on Mount Zion, not returned to Mount of Olives, but returned to Mount Zion the first time. He tells everybody, before these days, there was no hire for men, nor hire for beast. Look, italicized. Because there was no peace. For those 7 years, there was no peace on earth. Everyone that went in or came out because of the affliction that we spoke about in 2018 that began. For I set all men, every one against his neighbor. That's called the red horse rider. Peace taken from the earth, that they should kill one another. This is that. 2018, this is coming. The bow is called the simplest fabric. What did they write on in the past, in history? The simplest fabric. What is our paper called? The simplest fabric. It is going to be the peace deal. That is going to begin. The kickoff is the peace deal. And before this begins here, the red horse rider, the bride is going to be gone. But between the time of the signing to the point where the bride is gone is going to be massive earthquakes, earth-shaking events before war breaks out. All right, that's what's coming. That's what these numbers, all of these numbers I was just able to show you in order. 14 years. Like I said, if we go backwards, we have in here time, times, and half a time. We have in all of this final, the last 3.5 years, time and times and half a time. We have 1,260 days. We have 42 months to continue. We have X amount of time before he shows up on the scene, before he gets power to continue 42 months. If we go forward, we know that from this moment, there's 10 years and a half before Yeshua is then cut off. And then the time of the flying away for 3.5 years. Going backwards, we can see 3.5 years, 3.5 years, 3.5 years, and a portion of time before the Antichrist was given power to continue. But before the Antichrist, there was also a white horse rider. Chapter 13 starts the red horse rider, but before him there was a white horse rider. Just like the seals show us. This stuff all takes place in the first 3.5 years. White horse rider, bride escaping, Antichrist shows up on the scene. There's devastation of earthquakes, massive earth-shaking earthquakes, maybe even Cascadia subduction zone on the west coast is what's going to kick that off with major earthquakes. Two major volcanoes. Then the Antichrist shows up. War is going to break out. Famine is going to ensue. Mark of the Beast stuff is going to take place. Beheading of Christians is going to happen in here. False prophet shows up to boost up and lift up the Antichrist. And then he is given power to continue 42 months. And this is when I call it the purposeful beheading of Christians will take place. Then you have the fifth seal, the martyrs under the altar. And they're told to wait a little longer until more of their brothers have been killed as they were. And then we go into Revelation. We see at the seventh seal, the 144,000 get sealed. And then we see those that get raptured. And what do we see? We see those that were given white robes, who are those that were under the altar. And then those that were alive and remained at the rapture, those are the ones with palms in their hands. And together, their white robes and palms in their hands and a great multitude raptured out. It's perfect. Nothing was forced. This is why, guys, I'm asking you, if you have the ability, for those who have supported the ministry, thank you, thank you, thank you, and continue to support it. We have very little time left. I am ordering USBs, and I want to continue to order as many USBs as we can and to ship them to these churches like I've shown you. We are shipping them to churches throughout North America, some around the world, only the ones that you guys tell us that you guys are requesting them. But we are shipping them all throughout. Pastors, we got church USBs all over the world. We've got more lists than that of where these USBs are going. All right? So we need your help and your support to get more of these USBs done so that we can burn a video like this onto them, and the Operation 14 Years that reveals all of this understanding. And with your support, we can do this. We will get more and more and more out till the day we're taken out of here and we can no longer do this. All right? And we absolutely need your prayers continuously. It is not the easiest thing in the world going through this in hours and hours of scripture a day and getting these understandings revealed, and then minds being blown and my throat getting so harsh because I just talking with my family. And, you know, my wife is such a blessing. By being able to speak to her about it virtually every single day for a couple hours and just unleashing everything that's being revealed, to be able to bounce it back and forth and bounce it back and forth until it's completely understood, and then boom, I can do a video for you guys. All right? So we need your help. I do this full time. My business is done. Right? This is my business. This is my work for the Lord. Time is short, and I'm just asking for your help. We have in the description box, there is a link for our PayPal, and you can donate that way. We have a mailing address there if you guys wanted to send us something, but you don't have to. If you guys would like a USB, just send us an email in the About Us. Click on the email link or send us a comment, and we'll send you the email, and you can send us your address for where you would like a USB sent. Maybe you want to leave it for family and friends. All right? So let us know, and we will do everything we can to get you guys USBs. And for those that can support, fantastic. We appreciate it, and we will just go get these out there like gangbusters. All right? Time is short. Help us get more of these out there. These are revelations and understandings, guys, that are just absolutely incredible. Not by me, but by the Spirit working in me. All right? I love you guys. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon. I love videos like this. I get so fired up. So just take your time. Watch it again. Spend the time in the scriptures to see where all these things lined up. It is perfect. All right, guys? God is good. Love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.